What's going on, everybody, and welcome to MagellanTV's Docucast, the podcast that will make you the most interesting person in the room.
It's the goddamn truth.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is. I'm your host, Nico, and I'm here with my co-host, co-worker, but most importantly, very, very good friend, Gabe. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing real well, thank you.
Yeah, me too. Are you excited?
I'm really nervous. Dude.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous too, but we're gonna deliver.
Yeah, we will
always deliver.
Like
So
a UPS truck.
So the first thing I said is that this podcast is going to make you the most interesting person in the room, and that's a big claim.
It's a pretty big claim.
Because we don't know how boring you are.
Some people it's just hard to make them interesting.
Yeah, but no, you know what? Like I said, we are going to deliver. That's what we're going to do here. And the way we're going to do it, I'm kidding, but the way we're going to do it is each week we're going to choose a prompt that has to do with a documentary that we watched here at Magellan TV and that we loved and we learned a lot from, right?
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing.
Exactly. And then we're going to drop that knowledge on you so then you could then share it with your friends. Maybe you're on a date, or you could just, whenever you feel like being smart, you just let it out.
Just let out that intelligence.
Like an impulsive outburst of just knowledge and just fill the room with knowledge. And everyone around you would be like, wow, you're a really smart guy. And you just be like,
Yeah.
I know. I learned it from the MagellanTV Docucast.
That's what you should say, please.
So this week, the topic for this week's video is called, we're calling it The History of Painkillers. The History of Painkillers.
We're going to be talking about the painkillers and their history.
And the documentary we watched that kind of inspired this is called From Pain to Poison.
Awesome series.
Very awesome series. And it's a 3-part series hosted by Dr. Michael Mosley, an award-winning journalist and documentary host for biology and medicine-themed topics at BBC. And his catalog is extremely vast. You can check him out on just Wikipedia, his name. You'll see all this list of things. But the topic the documentary that we are going to discuss is From Pain to Poison, most specifically the first episode, Pain.
Yeah, we'll basically be covering just a couple of points from the documentary where we did a lot of research to learn as much as we can about them, but we're really just scratching the surface. There's a lot more in the documentary itself.
Exactly. And we are not experts. We are not experts, but we love to learn and we love watching documentaries. So we're going to just, like I said, we're just going to fill you with knowledge, have a nice discussion, talk about things that we thought were really cool, really interesting that we could pass along to you. And like I said, this first episode is called The History of Painkillers. So everything has to do with,
Can I guess?
Yeah, what do you think?
Is it painkillers?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I guess we should just start from the top, the way this documentary introduces itself, the way it comes in, and it starts with a bang.
Just scarred me for life.
Right? And I'm going to bring it back. We're bringing it back in time. Pretend you're in a time travel. I'm going to look into my camera right now. Pretend you're in a time machine, and you're going back in time. Now it's 1815, and there are 4 Germans in a science lab conducting a little experiment on themselves, as they tended to do back in those days.
Actually insane.
Yeah.
They would just find new substances and they would just try them
on themselves or dogs. A lot of tests were done on dogs.
A lot of tests.
Which we don't like. We don't like doing tests on dogs.
We don't support that.
We do not support
dog testing.
Animal testing in general. Not even chicken testing. But
I like chicken.
We do like chicken. Everybody likes chicken. But yeah, so they would do a lot of
chicken as well.
So they would do a lot of tests on animals. But in 1815, 4 Germans, led by the man Friedrich Zertner, decided that they were going to conduct a test on these new crystals that they discovered that were a derivative of the poppy plant. Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, do you want to take over a little?
Yeah. So, I mean, poppy plant, well known because it makes opium.
Yes.
And opium has got to be one of the oldest drugs around. I mean,
yes, it is. And the ancient Sumerians even called it the joy plant.
Yes. That's actually what it
So it's been around for centuries. And the poppy plant has been basically people have been grounding it up using the sap. It actually comes from the sap of the plant, and they've been using it been using it for centuries to treat like basic kind of illnesses, but mostly having to do with like kind of pain or like squawking babies, just an overall ancient medicine that was thought to be beneficial for use. And
the only thing about that was the way they did it was they took the seeds of the seed pod of the poppy plant, and then they would just slice it, take out that like gummy substance that came from the seed, They would just dry
Picturing it
in
now. I'm
these,
gonna put it behind us. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah.
We got this green screen. If you haven't noticed what's behind us, we don't. This isn't where we are.
whatever you see back there.
Whatever you see back there, which we're gonna figure out, we're not there.
At a later date.
We're in an office, but
Oh yeah.
we're gonna use this screen to help hopefully show you what we're talking about.
Yeah. So.
It'll be interactive, an interactive podcast.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So then they would just dry this in, and I actually wrote this down in open wooden boxes. Then they roll the resin into just balls for sale, and so people could drink. They could just put this, in alcohol. Let's say drink it. They could eat it. But the thing is, it was first of all expensive and not reliable. You really didn't know how well it would work.
I believe that the combination of this sappy powder, whatever these balls, the resin, and they mixed it with alcohol, and they would take it. I believe it was called laudanum.
Yes.
Laudanum is the name.
Yes.
See, we're ready to go.
I read that too. Yeah,
you read that too. Yeah. So back to 1815, these 4 Germans led by Friedrich Zertner took these crystals that they derived from the poppy plant, and they took the crystals, dissolved them in alcohol, and then we're doing shots of them like they're going to town at Brother Jimmy's, just full on.
You want to do some opium?
Saturday night, just doing shots of alcohol and this opium crystal powder that they were experimenting with. And
I actually have the exact measurements here.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah, so we've got this. So what they did was Zertner and his 3 assistants took a grain of morphine, which is equal to 30 milligrams, right?
Okay, that's a solid amount.
Yeah, and then he handed out another round of grains 30 minutes later.
Okay.
And then followed that by another round 15 minutes after that, which means in less than an hour, Zertner and his friends had ingested 90 milligrams of morphine, which is 10 times the recommended limit today.
Oh, man.
So it's not ideal.
Woo, that's a Saturday night, baby. Saturday night, baby. Yeah, so they started by, they took that first 30 milligrams, right? And they dissolved in alcohol. They took it, and nothing happened, which I'm assuming nothing happened because they probably did it they probably were looking for reactions too quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but that's probably what.
We've also never done taking opium, so.
Speak for yourself. No. Yeah, we've also never done hard drugs. So we wouldn't know that. So then about how long later?
Let's see.
However long later.
It
could be half an hour.
It
could
was,
be 20 minutes.
Around 30 minutes later.
30 minutes later. 30 minutes later, they decide to do the same test. Take the same amount of crystals, dissolve in alcohol, take it. It's like their second shot of the night. Still pre-gaming a little bit, right? and they said this time they had kind of a pounding headache, like face flushing. Didn't feel great, but like nothing really substantial that they would, that they thought this is working. So then they go for it a third time. Third time's a charm, right?
It is absolutely.
Third time is always the charm. It's throughout history. It's always third time is always the charm. So they take this, so they take this last shot of this opium crystal mix, and they all basically. So his assistants pass out on the floor, not throwing up, on the floor, writhing around in pain, passed out. And would you like to take over from here?
Yeah, sure. And then he manages to crawl over to a bottle of vinegar.
Very strong vinegar.
Strong vinegar, and he drinks some, and he forces it. Well, he doesn't really force it because his coworkers are unconscious.
I guess he pours it into their unconscious mouths.
Yeah, and then they all violently get sick.
Violently throw up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he saved their lives, actually.
Wow.
So they almost died creating this.
Yeah, so they almost died. And they credit, a lot of scientists credit this experiment, this discovery to be one of the most important discoveries in all of medicine. And just as far as advancing the science of being able to get to the essence of some sort of compound. And later this compound would end up being known as morphium, later than known as morphine.
Well, actually he named it morphine after Morpheus. Which Morpheus is the Greek god of dreams.
The Greek god of dreams?
Yes. Morpheus, the Greek god of dreams.
Isn't Morpheus also the character in
The Matrix?
The Matrix?
Yeah. That's true too. I don't think he named it after that character though.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
No, I was never a big Matrix guy. Honestly.
Okay, I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it?
I enjoyed it. I always like to pretend I'm Keanu Reeves because who
Ah.
doesn't? I mean,
Well,
we'll
everyone
end it
has done
there.
the thing where you pretend to move in slow motion. While
yeah.
you pretend things are flying at you.
yeah, but I mean, I play a lot of shooting video games, so
Mm.
anytime I like survive, I'll just be like, "Dad, just call me Keanu Reeves."
Oh, yeah, that's
For a
strong.
Matrix reference.
But yeah, back into it. So so this whole experiment created morphine,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, like I said, was discussed as one of the biggest discoveries in all of medicine,
Oh yeah.
honestly. And that then had led them to more scientists all over Europe then trying to extract this essence and different essences of different plants.
Oh, yeah.
using this similar
Approach.
Yeah, a similar approach. I don't know how it's done. I have no idea. But it led these other scientists to then experiment kind of in the same way, extracting other essences from different plants. And there's a word for it. There is a word. They're called alkaloids.
Oh yeah.
Alkaloids. Bam. I knew it, man. You see that?
You're
They're called
freaking genius.
Yeah, they're called alkaloids. Like this, the essence of these plants and these substances are called alkaloids. And another very famous alkaloid that I have right here is caffeine.
Oh, that's true.
Caffeine, and a lot of these plants, the alkaloids are meant to save them from predators. So
Exactly.
like if a bird was trying to eat your little berry or your plant, and that's the kind of sour, bitter taste that would deter them from wanting to eat it,
That's no accident.
it's no accident. It's an alkaloid, and now humans. It's like it sounds like I'm talking about prehistoric times. No, humans to decide, but now scientists and humans have discovered this because of this experiment by Frederick Zertner, and now they are discovering all these different plants and getting to the essence of them, finding out these alkaloids and creating medicine mostly to treat pain or pain-related symptoms, all those kinds of things.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah.
Do you have what topic do you want to jump into now?
Okay, so let's jump into.
Where does this segue us?
This is really cool.
Okay, let me hear it.
So speaking about obviously treating pain,
Mm-hmm.
the story of inhalation anesthesias, like how they came to be, meaning like a painkiller that you experience by inhaling the gas.
Yeah, like a gas form of
Yeah.
a gas form of a painkiller.
Yeah.
Because think about it like this: throughout history, for the most part, people were performing surgeries. Like, there have been doctors for all of humanity, pretty much, right? Even from tribal times, you got to think if somebody got hurt, they would try to fix it.
Yeah.
And there'd be no way to probably put the person to sleep unless they would probably hit them over the head with a rock, or which would
Accidentally murder someone.
Yeah, which would create I put a hole through his head trying to fix his foot, or so yeah.
It was just opium or alcohol. That was
Yeah, basically you just get someone really hammered and then you amputate their foot. But obviously, the people are now looking for a way to can we treat the pain of the operation? Can we maybe put them to sleep? Like, all these things were being discovered during this time period, and you could take it over.
Yeah. So, nitrous oxide, which is laughing gas,
Mm-hmm.
used to really just be entertainment.
Okay.
Because of how people get when they
Oh yeah, that's
You
a
know.
party.
when they have that. And so there was a dentist named Horace Wells,
Horace Wells.
and so he and his buddy, people basically there'd be people that would go around with this nitrous oxide, and they would just they're the drug dealers. They would just go places and share their nitrous oxide with people,
Mhm.
and it would just be entertainment. So Horace
They weren't
Wells,
they called? Didn't they have like little nitric oxide parties?
I
Laughing gas parties.
I know that it was popular
Okay.
as entertainment. I don't know exactly how they did it.
Little get-togethers, little
Little
shindigs. All right.
Yeah. So Horace Wells saw someone get quite intoxicated
Ooh.
with this, who who then ended up banging his knee on a settee, which is just a couch. Is now is what we know that as. Yeah. And
Why don't we still call it settees?
You know, I don't know actually. I don't know.
You want to take a seat on my settee?
I feel like it's more appealing than a couch. I think that's true.
Or sofa. Sofa is a weird word. I don't like the word sofa.
I don't like it either.
All right,
it sounds like it's a different language. It's not English.
All right, back to it.
Okay.
Don't let me distract you from the people. The people need to know.
I'm gonna give you some knowledge here.
All right, we're dropping it. Drop it like it's hot.
Okay, so he got he banged his knee up and he was bleeding and he felt no pain and didn't even notice until the drug wore off.
Oh yeah.
And so Horace Wells saw this. And literally the next day, he organized with someone he knew that was a dentist as well.
Okay.
He had the laughing gas himself, and then he got a tooth that was bothering him pulled. Just the next day, he was like, "Oh, this looks like it numbs pain, so you just give me that, and you take this tooth out of my mouth." And
okay.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So next day that happened, and it worked brilliantly.
Wow.
Which is pretty
I hate
no
the
pain.
dentist.
No pain.
I hate the dentist.
Yeah, I mean,
I just want people to know I hate the dentist. Well, no, I don't hate getting my teeth cleaned, but I actually this kind of fits into all this. I hate the numbing sensation of the painkillers that are supposed to help me. Yeah. In the moment, they feel great, but afterwards, you know, you go the rest of the day, you can't feel your tongue, you bite it 5 times, your mouth is bleeding. It's just that
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's just.
It sounds real traumatic.
Yeah, it is traumatic. I go to therapy about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I still do.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll probably have another cavity now that I'm saying this. I'm just jinxing myself even more.
I actually have the greatest luck. I haven't had a cavity in a while, really long time, and I eat a lot of candy.
And you drink a lot of soda.
And I drink a lot of soda.
Would you reeled it back though?
I did.
You have reeled it back.
Yeah, because I had a girlfriend at one point, and she was like, "I don't want to die before you die." So I said, "Okay, I won't drink soda." So that's not a joke, by the way. That's actually the real reason.
I used to eat back in college. I used to eat a absurd amount of candy, and I'm like a health guy. Like I work out like almost every day. Like I eat very healthy. But back in high school, early college, like freshman year of college, I would just get bags of Sour Patch Kids or Skittles, and I would just like that was my guilty pleasure. And then I just gave it up eventually. Yeah, delicious. I know.
Absolutely.
They're still kind of my little guilty pleasure, but
yeah. So speaking of guilty pleasures, nitrous oxide, laughing gas. I mean, this guy used it, and successfully, he was able to get a tooth pulled without any pain at all.
Wow.
And so then he said, "Hey, let me try this on my patients." And he had a bunch of successful trials. And he had he got a demonstration at the Massachusetts General Hospital a month later.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the gas bag was removed early, and the patient cried out, and so he was considered an absolute failure.
Oh my God!
People looked at it and said, "This doesn't work," because back then they didn't think it was even possible. They said taking away pain from procedure, no, not possible. So, like they didn't want to believe it,
Totally.
And so he returned to Hartford, depressed, just a complete failure, broken, and then he started experimenting with chloroform.
Ooh.
Which is also an effective anesthetic. Okay. But it's more dangerous than ether, and he became addicted to it.
Okay. Yeah.
And he eventually got arrested for throwing acid on prostitutes while he was chloroformed.
Well, why was he around prostitutes, Gabe?
Well, I don't know, but
why,
maybe he was just wishing them a good day. But no matter why, he threw acid on them, was sent to jail, and killed himself in jail.
Oh, happy ending.
It's crazy. Okay, so that's just the beginning of the story of inhalation anesthesia.
Yeah.
3 years prior to this, before all this happened, Horace Wells met a young man named William Morton, and William Morton, he had made his money by forging. Let me just make sure this is right.
Yeah, we always got to fact check. If we could fact check, that's what we want to do.
By forging letters of recommendation for himself, and then using these letters of recommendation, he would buy things. Just buy anything on credit. Okay. Then he would sell them and then he'd run away with the money. He did this in different places. That's how he made money.
So he was just like a scam artist?
Just a con man.
Just a con man.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. William Morton, right? So then he eventually got to go to the let's make sure that's right here.
Yeah.
He eventually got to go to a prestigious school,
Ooh.
which
Probably used all that money and got himself in through the dean a little cut. Got in there, you know.
it
happens. You gotta do what you gotta do if you want to get, you want to get a job, education.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Okay. Yes. Harvard Medical School.
Harvard
I knew that it was a
Harvard. See, there you go. Yeah, he had to get in there
got into
somehow.
Harvard
This
Medical
guy was
School.
a borderline degenerate.
Absolutely. It's always those guys that get far in life. It's never the boring people.
The good guys never win.
No.
Good guys never win.
So he went to Harvard Medical School, but he dropped out because of money issues.
Got it.
You know, you
Yeah.
can only con so many places before you got to move on to the next place.
Yeah, and you can't con when you're at Harvard Medical School, probably.
I would
Probably
guess.
a hard time commitment between the crime and one of the best schools ever.
It is,
You
yeah.
know, it's
So
kind of hard
he-
to balance that. It's a balancing act.
So he
But
had
I
to drop
respect
out.
his. I respect his grind. But continue.
Yeah. So then he found
He dropped out.
He dropped out.
Okay.
He-
So he
dropped
chose the
out.
crime. He chose the thug life.
Well, he actually then found Horace Wells.
Okay.
And Horace Wells agreed to take him on as a student.
Got it.
And so Horace Wells was teaching Morton everything, everything he knew, and Morton was even with Wells when he had this disastrous, procedure, that totally ruined
His career.
Wells' reputation and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then after that happened, they went their separate ways. And
Did they
then-
like hold hands as they slowly fell apart?
No, apparently it was very they were still on good terms.
Oh, okay.
Afterwards.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like a tragic love
It
story.
wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was definitely tragic, but I don't think it was a love story.
Nah.
So he went. He spoke to his his professor from back in his college days.
Yeah.
Charles Jackson, and really what they talked about is up for debate because they claim different things. But afterwards, he started experimenting, and by he I mean Morton started experimenting with ether. First, he
Ooh.
used it to numb the mouth.
Yeah.
Then he put a handkerchief. He just put some on a handkerchief, put it on his face, and just got unconscious.
Just knocked himself out.
Knocked himself
So
right out.
yeah, for those people who watch a lot of movies, if you ever see like a creepy guy, it's usually a creepy guy. It's never like the good guy does it. It's always the creepy guy.
That's
So
true.
the creepy guy takes a handkerchief, has this vial of liquid, and he kind of shakes it, puts it on him, then he goes up to someone and just puts it over his face, and they faint. That's ether.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it could be, or it also could be chloroform.
It could be chloroform also.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, because chloroform is probably more effective. But
From your own personal experience.
speaking
From my own research.
from a friend, a friend told me this.
Was it what you really want to do? But okay.
Right.
So now he's experimenting,
he's
with
experimenting with ether.
Yeah.
Put it on his face, knocked himself out, woke up, couldn't move. Must have been absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah.
But eventually,
Well, you just wake up after knocking yourself out. Yeah, it's pretty horrific.
Oh my god. So, I mean, after years of experimentation, he was able to return to Massachusetts General Hospital, where the previous operation failed
Yeah, sure.
with Wells.
Oh, so they let him in now.
So they
Solo.
let Morton come in,
Solo
run. Who basically there was a doctor that was performing a surgery, which is removing a huge tumor from a guy's neck.
God, yeah.
So Morton came in with
Nasty.
let me make sure I got this right. Morton came in
An
with
inhaler, some sort of inhaler device.
yeah, I have it. Oh, it's I literally inhaler.
Oh.
Yeah.
Looking for the technical, very fancy word. Ah, yes, inhaler.
Yeah, so he came in with with this specific device that would let you inhale the ether gas.
Got it.
And gave it to the gentleman waiting to have his neck tumor removed.
Which is pretty
And-
serious. That's not a tooth pull. This
No.
is like,
It's like a long operation and
Yeah.
very painful.
yeah, could you imagine doing it back in 1850?
Oh God.
This is like roughly like 1850. A little timeline.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly. Oh, actually, Yeah, I'll tell you the exact date. It was October 16th, 1846.
Oh, day before my birthday.
Is it really?
Yeah, my birthday's October 17th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
1846.
Happy late
That's my
birthday.
birthday. October 17th, 1846.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty
You
old.
look pretty good for your age.
Yeah, and I look. I mean, I exercise. I eat healthy. No more candy.
Okay.
Yeah,
So now you heard it here.
yeah. If you
More
wanna-
knowledge.
If you want to live to 300, this is what you gotta do. Okay,
I
so
hate to be that guy, but it's not 300.
I know it's not 300. I know it's not 300.
We're gonna just quickly.
We never
know
said
math,
that. We never
okay?
said this was a math podcast. Okay. Okay. There'll probably be no math in this podcast.
Definitely now. there will
Definitely.
be
Definitely
no math.
now. Definitely now.
Yeah, so October 16th, 1846, now it's known as Ether Day because it worked.
Oh,
It actually worked. The man was able to get the tumor removed, no pain.
no pain.
And then you'd think, wow, that's great. I mean, you've got Morton, who was there previously, with Wells' failure, who probably had his reputation a little tarnished, considering he was a student.
Oh, totally.
And now he comes back, and it's like a retribution. It's a hero story.
Back in black, baby.
Back in black. And then but it's not.
But it's not.
He gets recognition and fame, but what he wants is money. So he tries.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
the
man.
con. He's all about that moolah.
He is, yeah.
Yes, he is.
So he
Yes,
creates a concoction of ether and oil of orange
Okay.
and patents it as lithium because basically he wants, he keeps trying to have exclusive rights for
Yeah.
the use of this ether.
Yeah, he wants that. If anyone else copies this and uses this, he wants a cut.
Yeah, he
He
does.
wants a cut.
He does.
Yeah, I can't blame the man.
But but everyone guessed it was only the ether that worked. So it was an utterly useless patent. And he spent the next 20 years of his life fighting to obtain just the exclusive rights for this ether gas.
Yeah.
And ended up falling into debt because he completely ignored his dental business. And then and not only that, but you had Wells before he committed suicide. He wanted a piece of the action. And then you got Jackson. This is like a Romeo. This is a Shakespeare play.
Yeah,
okay?
it sounds like
Then
sounds
you got
like it.
Jackson, who also wanted the recognition because he claimed he told Morton about the whole effects of ether when they spoke.
Yeah, yeah.
So he wanted a cut as well, never got the cut or the credit, and then he spent the last 7 years of his life in an asylum.
Oh my God.
So that's the story of inhalation anesthesia and how that came to be.
And everybody dies.
Everyone did eventually die.
Everybody did eventually, but that is a really, really crazy story. And
Oh my God.
and is it and anesthesia? Anesthesia, by the way, is just an amazing concept. And this is basically the baby versions of it, like where its origin. This is like the origin of anesthesia, and it's really really amazing. And it's not an opioid painkiller, but what it does as far as medicine is concerned and surgery, it's huge. It's absolutely huge, and it really changed the world as far as medicine is concerned.
So you need to thank these three gentlemen, Wells, Morton, and Jackson, every time you go to the dentist.
Every time you go to the dentist, next time if you have a surgery, you broke your leg, you need to fix that up. Thank that con artist, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
and one other
you
thing,
got?
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty ironic. It's pretty ironic that the man that helped create inhalation anesthesia, right, Wells, got addicted to the chloroform that he was experimenting with, and then got depressed from it and his failures in life, and then killed himself. I mean, that's
it's pretty crazy. But I think a common theme of all these painkillers, for the most part, is addiction. Addiction is definitely a huge side effect or possibility when you're taking these painkillers, especially back then. Because then all of these, think of it, all of these were like legal technically. Like there was they didn't even know what they were until they were inventing them. A lot of these were prescribed as actual, you hurt your leg or you hurt your arm, like, oh, here's morphine, and now people now use it more a lot of people, not everyone, use it recreationally, and it's obviously very dangerous. But back then it was prescribed, and then addiction would kind of set in.
Oh,
and then,
man. And then it
these
would get
people would
banned.
just spiral out of control. Yeah, exactly.
Then it get
But
banned.
so that was really interesting. I love that. I think the people are going to love that too.
Oh,
But
my
the part of this documentary, one of the parts that I found very, very interesting was the story of two different drugs were created, right? Two different new substances were created. And one is one of the most widely known, respected drugs that if you go outside and you talk to 10 people, I'm sure at least like 6 or 7 of them have used it in their life.
Wow.
And another one is one of the most notorious killers of all time. Okay. So this all starts in the early 1840, 1830, that kind of range, right? So that's where we are. Pretty similar timeline as your story, actually. So this all this is kind of taking place in like the same kind of 50-year window. And it's all based around coal tar, okay? So back in this time period, coal, like a lump of coal, like Santa Claus,
Right.
was the main source of like energy.
A lump of coal like Santa Claus?
Like Santa Claus gives you a lump of coal.
Oh, right. If you're not a good child.
If you're not,
okay.
you're Jewish.
I didn't know that myth. I was just like, I think he rode reindeer. He just
Oh yeah, it
had a
does.
sleigh powered by coal.
That's okay.
and
He felt like Santa Claus had like a coal-powered sleigh.
yeah.
But yeah, like so coal. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh,
We're all learning. See
We're
now
all
Gabe.
learning,
So
yeah.
now Gabe knows more about Santa Claus.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That didn't happen. Let's continue.
Let's continue. So coal was the main source of energy during that time period because this is back in 1840. It's just what it was. And a byproduct of harnessing the energy from coal was this thick, dark liquid called coal tar. It's essentially a waste product of the coal industry. And since there was such an abundance of this substance, and scientists during this time period are really fascinated by extracting the essence of different things, like the poppy plant, for example. They saw this as an opportunity to try to explore the coal tar and see if it has some sort of similar magical properties. Exactly. And it's super abundant, and I mean they could use it for energy. So I guess they thought, okay, maybe this has some sort of medical benefits as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it started in 1845. A British chemist was playing around with coal tar, trying to create a drug to fight malaria, and ended up coming up with a purplish. The color is actually mauve.
Wow, I love that word.
Say the word mauve.
Mauve. That would be a great name. I mean, that is a name, right?
People name their
I
kids
would
mauve.
love
Mauve.
to find a wife
Name-
named Mauve. I'm just
name-
saying, like, if there's anyone out there named Mauve.
What if her name was Purple? Would you think of her the same way?
No.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyone named Purple. Sorry.
Yeah, me either. And although this wasn't what this kid set out to do, it still was very intriguing to everybody. It's like, oh, okay, you were able to kind of make it was like actually the first dye, like artificial dye that was created.
Cool.
Is that? Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So a few years later, some French doctors, Arnold Kahn and Paul Hepp at the University of Strasbourg, were conducting tests on human patients with a derivative of coal tar to see if it could actually work in bringing down fever and headache, and it could be a drug that can kind of help with that sort of stuff.
Nice.
And they did. They came up with a powder that you could mix in water and take, and they made a lot of money off of it. And there's a huge demand. And scientists now were trying to find other ways to make more money and different products off of coal tar. So these guys made something that worked. Let's see if we can make a better version, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. So then fast forward to 1890 now. So 1890, time machine.
Wow.
And we're at the Bayer.
Jumped ahead a little bit.
You jumped ahead a little bit. So now we're at in between 1850 and 1890, coal tar was being tested on by whole different scientists, and all these sort of different headache and fever reducing products were being created.
Right.
So too many names to even name, but the big point of this story is this part right here. In 1890, at the Bayer Institute in Germany, they began to be very interested with salicylic acid, which is a derivative of coal tar, and they were experimenting it on patients, which is great. Just experimenting on live people. That's always good. And they thought it may be able to actually kill stomach bacterial worms like typhoid. And what they found was it wasn't really able to do that, but it was able to bring down fever and headaches similar to the guys back in the 1850s. So they knew they were onto something, but the problem was that if you guys know or the name salicylic acid sounds familiar to you,
Yeah, it does.
it's because it's used. You could buy it at like CVS to help burn off your pimples.
Or they were eating. They were putting that.
And they were ingesting it, and it was supposed to help bring your fever down. But what it was what it was doing, yeah, it's burning something. Yeah, so obviously that's not good. You don't want to get rid of a fever and in the meantime burn a hole through your stomach. So what they
it depends. Like, how bad is the fever?
That's
right.
That's right.
You just gotta weigh it. Like, fean, hole in the stomach. I mean,
depends
how bad the fever is.
That's true. It does depend how bad your fever is. I mean, my stomach's always messed up. I can't imagine drinking salicylic acid.
Even the sound of it sounds like an awful idea. Why would
it
they
says
think
acid. The second part of the word is acid.
Why
But
would they think that?
No idea. But so now it brings us. So we're still at the Bayer Institute, and a chemist by the name of Arthur Eichengrüm.
Ooh, nice accent.
I wanted to hit that accent for you because I know how much you love accents.
Good accent.
So Arthur Eichengrüm decided that he wanted to find a way to take the salicylic acid and make some chemical changes to it and make it more palatable so people could actually eat it and not have their small intestine bleed out. So
that's ideal.
So Eichengrüm, through his studies, came up with some basic kind of modifications to the chemical itself, and would end up changing the world. Would end up changing the world. And as predicted, the compound no longer upset the stomach. So it was exactly what they set out to do. And this new modification ended up with the name aspirin. Sound familiar? Aspirin, right?
Oh yeah.
And
I've
now,
heard of that one.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that one. So now, inspired by the same sort of procedure, one of Eichengrüm's younger chemists, probably like an intern, cool intern, something like that's probably like, well, I could do that. So he took the same idea of how to, like a cool intern who thinks he's too cool and too smart for his boss. Like, I could do that, right? I could make something cool. He's from Brooklyn.
I would love if that's how we spoke.
Yo, I can make something cool. Yeah, so
I like it.
So he's from Brooklyn, and now he moved to Germany. No, kidding. But he decided that he's going to take the same sort of procedure and apply it to morphine. So trying to change the chemical compound of morphine. And what he ended up doing was making a substance called diamorphine, which would end up with the name heroin. Ooh, dun, dun, dun. I should add that in.
I see.
Dun, dun. I may add it.
Okay. I like that. Put that in post.
So now Eichengrüm and his team have two chemicals, or two different new medicines for trial. They have aspirin and they have heroin.
Right.
So they brought it to the leaders of Bayer, like the head, those decision maker kind of guys, and they looked at the two, probably tested them, and they decided that aspirin was going to be shelved because it was bad for the heart. But heroin, they loved heroin.
What are the odds of that?
What are the odds of that? So they loved heroin, and in 1898, heroin was marketed out and pushed out to the world. Everybody loved it. It did the job that it said. It's like painkiller, fever reducer, made you feel good, all fuzzy and warm inside, and everybody loved it, right? But Eichengrüm was probably a little pissed because here's this intern. This dude, I keep saying it's an intern. I don't know if it's an intern, but it makes me feel cooler. It makes me feel better thinking it's an intern.
Probably his assistant.
Probably like a really well-known assistant whose name we just can't find. So this guy, so Eichengrüm, obviously doesn't feel great because the thing that he kind of came up with, or his original idea,
the aspirin,
was thought to be kaput. There's nothing, and they were shipping out heroin, right? They're just Bayer is just, and they're still a company today. Look up Bayer Pharmaceuticals. It's still a very major, massive pharmaceutical company today.
Right.
And they're just pumping out heroin.
I have heard of them.
Yeah, they are. And it's the same logo. It's probably, I think it's the same logo too.
That's really interesting.
Or similar.
Let's find that out. Yeah.
Well, it could be wrong.
We could
look it up. So they're pushing out heroin to the world, and Eichengrüm really wants to further explore aspirin. So he gives this aspirin to doctors and dentists, actually, just kind of similar to your story, all around Germany that he's probably friends with, works close with. And one of the dentists gave it to a patient who had a fever for some reason. Like, he was just giving it to him.
Oh, so he had like a toothache and a fever.
Yeah, something like, yeah, exactly.
Ooh, double whammy.
And he basically was giving it out to patients to kind of try it out. And the guy said, although his fever didn't really go down, the toothache that he had vanished, and totally gone. So then, So Eichengrun's like, wow, I'm really onto something here. Went back to the leaders at Bayer, told them about these different tests that they've been running and how they think they're onto something here with aspirin. And then a year later, after heroin was pushed out, so 1899, aspirin was then finally put out on the market and pumped out, and it ended up being obviously one of the most successful drugs of all time. Really.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of ironic that aspirin was originally shelved because they thought it would be bad for the heart, where now, in 2020, one of the main purposes of aspirin is it's given to middle-aged men with kind of they could have heart problems or something, like cautionary. There's a lot of times it's cautionary, but they give it to middle-aged men because it decreases the hormone that is responsible for platelets, like blood platelet development or creation. So it prevents blood clotting and strokes.
Oh,
yeah. So
it's ironic.
So it's given to people to help prevent strokes, where in the heart and blood problems, where it was shelved originally in 1898 because they thought it was bad for the heart.
That's an amazing turn of events.
It's a pretty amazing turn of events. So then now we have heroin, we have aspirin, both out on the market, and obviously now in 2020 we know the dangers of heroin and what it does.
One of them is illegal.
Yeah, one of them is illegal, and one of them is great, right? And that's
Oh, okay. I thought you were making a reference
to what?
That you're like, one of them is illegal, one of them is great. Like aspirin's illegal, heroin's great. Okay, my mistake.
But yeah, so heroin, obviously. Oh my God.
We'll cut that part out.
No, it's staying in. We're unedited. So obviously, heroin is part of the poppy tree, right? So we have morphine, codeine, and out of morphine they created heroin. And those are, when you think of painkillers, those are the kind of the first ones your brain kind of goes to. Like those really are. And there's also nowadays there's oxycodone and tons of other names. I'm sure there's off brands and tons of, I can't even begin to name them. But they're extremely addictive. And obviously heroin is now no longer used in the medical world, but isn't
it essentially just a more addictive and effective form of morphine?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, it's a much stronger version of morphine. And I mean, nowadays, it's on the streets and it causes thousands of deaths every year. Last year, 2019 alone, there was close to 70,000 drug overdose related deaths, actually.
I think, wasn't that, I should make sure, but I think that was just opium.
Yeah,
related.
opium. Yeah, so opium related deaths.
Yeah, 70,000 opium related.
Drug overdose deaths. And that's obviously not good. The number over the past few years, the last 20 years has been rising, but over the last few years has slowly kind of leveled out. But you don't want to be leveling out around 70,000.
It's like, well, we'll stick here for now.
Yeah. Not a great number to be. But, I mean, this all comes from back at these discoveries that these people were making in between the years of 1850 and 1900. Which is really amazing when you really think about it. And these people were testing these on themselves, and for good. These people were trying to find ways to limit, to reduce the effects of pain. Which a lot of people who still take poppy derivatives like oxycodone for actual pain, they do still have perform a lot of good in the world. For people who
definitely
I'm not sure which one my uncle takes, but my uncle was an ex-police officer. He's bulging discs in his back. He's all messed up, and sometimes he'll take painkillers, but that's what he's not addicted, but it helps him,
Mm-hmm.
So there's tons of goods in the world done still just because of these discoveries that these people were taking on themselves. Just crystals, let's just put them in my mouth. These people could have died. I'm sure a lot of people died because of these tests. But if it weren't,
even Friedrich
Which one are you thinking of?
The
first
one
guy?
we talked about.
First
What was
guy?
his name again? Let's take a look at him.
Zertner. Frederick Zertner.
Frederick Zertner. Yeah.
Sorry, a lot of names. A lot of names. A lot of European names.
Even Frederick Zertner, right? He originally tested it on dogs, and then once he gave the crystals to a dog, who then became sleepy and died. I mean, that's when he said, "Okay, I think this is opium. That's an opium overdose. Let's test this out on ourselves."
Yeah, so you just kill a few dogs and then you just start trying it out on people, and that's what they did.
He literally, yeah, they'd have no idea what would happen to people. They just said, "Okay, this is what happened to a dog.
If this can kill a
Let's
dog,
see what happens."
if this can kill a dog, there may be something from it that we can extract that could be positive,
Right.
which is pretty nuts. But that's what they did. And medicine, obviously, now in 2020, and painkillers, I'm sure it's still going to continue to advance and advance. But this, coming full circle back, this documentary, if you really want to, don't take our word for it. Really, if you want to watch this where it's on MagellanTV, right, the sponsor of this podcast, MagellanTV Docucast, MagellanTV.
Thank you for sponsoring us, MagellanTV.
Thank you, MagellanTV. Thank you. And you can start your 7-day free trial. We'll put the link below for the documentary. You can click on it, watch it for free.
Yeah, and what we discussed here was only a couple of small points in the
tip of the
documentary
iceberg.
that we just researched.
Yeah, totally. And
But
we went more into depth on.
Yeah, they talked about a lot more in the actual documentary. This is just what we thought. Let's dig up some research on these two little points.
Yeah, and I had fun first episode. This is the first episode, so obviously there's we're gonna improve. You guys can let us know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like. If you think Gabe's annoying, if you think I'm annoying, tell us.
Maybe don't.
I'll
maybe
fire
don't
Gabe.
tell.
I will fire Gabe. I could find somebody else.
Don't.
Okay, there's plenty of people who work here. I will fire Gabe.
Don't.
Okay, I will fire.
Don't say anything.
But so yeah, links in the below. The documentary Pain from Pain to Poison. I'm Nico. This
I'm
is
Gabe. Yep.
And we'll see you next week with a different topic and a lot more knowledge
Coming your way.
coming your way.